This coin almost ended up in a gas station change jar, but when its true value was revealed, it was worth over $1 million. Imagine holding a simple copper-colored penny. Dull, ordinary, unremarkable. The kind of coin you'd hand to a cashier without a second thought. But what if that penny wasn't ordinary at all? What if it was hiding a secret that could turn a single cent into $1 million miracle? That's exactly the case with the 1990 Mint Mark Lincoln penny. A coin that looks like every other penny from the early 90s, but for a few rare examples, it carries a flaw so shocking, it transformed pocket change into fortune. Now here's the part that stunned collectors everywhere. In 1990, the Denver Mint struck millions of pennies. But among those millions, a few were created with a minting mistake so subtle, so easily overlooked, that decades later people are still discovering them in change. And when these coins surface at auctions, they don't sell for $100, or $1,000, or even $10,000, they can climb into the hundreds of thousands. And yes, some collectors estimate the rarest examples could reach up to $1.6 million, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One collector, sorting through an old jar of coins left behind by his grandfather, noticed something strange. His penny had the 1990 date, the familiar D Mint mark, but the lettering looked sharper, bolder, different than he'd ever seen before. He took it to a dealer, who at first shrugged it off. But then, after a closer look under magnification, the truth came out. This wasn't just any 1990 penny. It was a discovery coin. $1 million mistake hiding in plain sight. Dealers were shocked. Collectors were buzzing. And suddenly, the 1990 D penny was no longer just change, it was treasure. Now, here's where the story gets even more dramatic. The US Mint was supposed to update the master dies in 1990 to include new design details. But a handful of older dies slipped through by accident. The result? Some pennies struck that year show the wrong style of lettering and date. A mistake that only the sharpest eyes can catch. And because the Mint produced so many coins, those rare survivors are nearly impossible to find. Nearly impossible, but not completely, and that's why collectors are on the hunt. Because buried inside old rolls of pennies, tucked in coffee cans, or hiding in your change jar, could be one of these rare errors, but this tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Look carefully at the 1990 D. On some rare examples, the word Liberty and the date have sharper, older style lettering compared to the updated design. It's almost invisible unless you compare side by side. That tiny difference is the key point. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and you could be next. Some of these coins were found in circulated condition, worn down from years of use. Even then, their value was astronomical. But if one of these rare pennies ever surfaced in pristine, uncirculated condition, experts say it could shatter auction records and bring a jaw-dropping $1.6 million. Collectors were stunned when the first confirmed examples appeared. Dealers rushed to verify them. And every time one is authenticated, the coin world holds its breath, because so few are known. Now, think about that. Millions of 1990 D pennies exist. They're in bank vaults, they're in drawers, they're rattling around in old piggy banks. And yet, among them, just a handful could carry life-changing value. That's the thrill. That's the mystery. That's why collectors never stop searching, but here's what makes this story even more unbelievable. Many people who once had these coins, probably spent them without ever knowing. Imagine the heartbreak of realizing the penny you used at a vending machine years ago could have been worth $1 million today. This is why coin collectors never take any date for granted. Every penny could be the one. Every coin could be hiding a fortune. And the 1990 D is proof that even modern pennies, coins we barely notice, can carry unimaginable worth. Here's what to look for. First, check the lettering. The date and the word Liberty should look slightly different than the common variety. Sharper, thinner, and in a style used in earlier years. Second, examine the mint mark. On some examples, it appears misplaced or struck differently than the usual Denver D. Finally, condition matters, but even circulated examples can bring staggering prices if they show the error details, and don't make the mistakes so many beginners make. Just because a coin is old doesn't mean it's valuable, and just because it's modern doesn't mean it's worthless. The secret is in the details, the minting errors, the hidden changes, the tiny features most people never notice. Point 1: Overlooked penny. One lucky discovery. One incredible story of turning pocket change into fortune. This penny almost ended up in the trash, but when it was finally recognized, it was valued at over $1 million. Imagine that, something most people would toss aside without a second thought, suddenly transformed into a life-changing fortune. And the shocking truth is, this exact coin could be hiding in your pocket change right now. The 2007 no mint mark Lincoln penny doesn't look extraordinary at first glance. It's small, it's copper-plated zinc, and to the average eye, it's just another cent lost in the sea of billions. But collectors know better. Because inside this single year, inside this tiny coin, lies one of the most unexpected mysteries in American coinage. Back in 2007, the U.S. Mint struck hundreds of millions of Lincoln pennies. Most bore the small D of Denver or the S of San Francisco. But then came a series of no mint mark pennies. Ordinary? Not quite. Because within that run, rare minting mistakes crept in. Errors so subtle that only the sharpest eyes could detect them. And those mistakes are the difference between a coin worth a single cent and one worth over $1.70 million. But here's where it gets unbelievable. One man in the Midwest almost spent one at a gas station. He fished it from his change jar, thought nothing of it, until a flash of detail caught his attention. The date. The lack of mint mark. The strange doubling on Lincoln's face. He pulled it back, curious. That hesitation, that single glance, would change his life forever, because when experts saw it, they were stunned. This wasn't just any 2007 penny. It was one of the rarest errors ever struck. Collectors whispered that it could rival the great error coins of the 20th century. And when it finally crossed the auction block, it sold for over $1 million. Yes. A penny that might have bought a stick of gum became worth more than most people's homes. That's the part most people miss. It wasn't just the missing mint mark. It was the strike itself. Some were double-struck. Some showed an eerie off-center design. Others revealed a faint but powerful clash mark, evidence of a die striking without a planchet between them. These details, invisible to the untrained eye, became glaring beacons to collectors, and suddenly, the coin world erupted. Dealers rushed to scour every 2007 penny they could find. Stories spread of people pulling them from couch cushions, from vending machines, from old coin jars sitting forgotten in basements. Each discovery sparked new hope. Was this the next $1 million miracle? But here's the twist. Most people threw them away. They didn't know what they were holding. Some were spent, lost forever, slipped back into circulation to vanish into the endless river of cents. How many of these $1 million treasures are still out there? That question keeps collectors awake at night, and the more you learn, the more chilling it becomes. Because identifying one isn't about luck, it's about knowledge. You need to look closely at the date, 2007. Look at the space where a mint mark should be. Nothing. Then examine Lincoln's portrait. Is there doubling on the eye, on the lips, on the inscriptions? That doubling is what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. But here's the detail that stunned even veteran numismatists. Some of these 2007 no mint mark pennies were struck on experimental planchets. Planchets not intended for circulation, slipped into the presses by mistake. The result? A coin unlike any other in American history, and when collectors discovered that, the value exploded. A simple penny, transformed into $1 million prize. One man's pocket change became his miracle. Dealers still talk about that auction today, whispering about how quickly the bids climbed. 10,000. 50,000. 100,000. And then, silence, before the hammer fell. Over $1 million. For a penny, but the story doesn't end there. Because each time one surfaces, the mystery deepens. Were these mistakes accidents? Or were they intentional test runs that slipped into the public's hands? Some insiders believe the truth will never fully be revealed. And maybe, that's what makes them so powerful. Now imagine this. You're digging through your change, bored, distracted. You see a 2007 penny. No mint mark. You shrug, ready to toss it aside. But something stops you. The shine. The strike. The tiniest flaw. What if it's the one? What if the coin in your hand could change your life forever? Collectors have built entire careers chasing these rarities. They know the stakes. They know that just one coin, one mistake, can turn a hobby into a fortune. And for the 2007 no mint mark Lincoln penny, the stakes have never been higher. Start with the basics. Look at every 2007 penny you come across. Pay attention to the missing mint mark. Then examine the details under magnification, doubling, off-centers, clash marks, or unusual weights. The rarest examples will often weigh slightly differently due to planchet variations. That's the sign. That's the signal that you're holding history, and here's the most important part. Don't assume it's ordinary. Most people make that mistake. They see 2007 and dismiss it. But history has proven, time and time again, that the most valuable coins often masquerade as pocket change. Think about it. A penny meant for everyday use. A coin struck by the billions. Yet hidden among them, a handful worth over $1 million. That's not just a coincidence. That's fate. That's destiny waiting in the palm of your hand. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, look again. When you open that dusty coin jar, don't just dump it out. Search it. Because inside, you might hold a piece of forgotten history. A coin that nearly disappeared, a coin that could change everything. This is more than collecting. This is a treasure hunt. And the 2007 no mint mark Lincoln penny is the ultimate prize. The coin that proves, miracles still hide in plain sight. So remember this. Check the date. Look for no mint mark. Search for doubling. Test the weight. If you find it, you may be holding the exact penny that shocked the coin world and sold for over $1 million. And here's the final truth you cannot forget. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This penny almost ended up in a jar of loose change, but when it was discovered, it sold for a fortune that stunned collectors everywhere. A single 1979 no mint mark Lincoln penny, the kind most people would never look twice at, has been valued at up to $1.8 million. And the story behind it is more unbelievable than you could ever imagine. It all begins in the late 1970s, a time when the Lincoln Memorial penny was so common, it seemed like no one cared. Billions were struck. Billions were spent. And yet, hidden among those ordinary copper-coated coins, a few left the mint with mysterious traits, tiny imperfections, vanishing details, and secrets that no one realized until decades later. Collectors had no idea what they were missing. But one day, a man in the Midwest cracked open an old cigar box of coins left behind by his grandfather. Inside was a 1979 penny that seemed different. At first glance, it looked ordinary. But under a magnifying glass, he spotted something extraordinary. And that tiny difference would change everything, because here's the shocking truth: not every 1979 penny tells the same story. Some were struck in Philadelphia with no mint mark at all. And while most are only worth face value, a select few have minting errors so rare, so unexplainable, that they transform from pocket change into million-dollar treasures. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The man decided to have his coin appraised. Dealers leaned in, expecting just another common copper piece. Instead, silence fell across the room. One expert even removed his glasses, staring at the coin as if he were holding lightning in his hand. This penny wasn't just rare, it was nearly flawless. And when paired with its error, it became a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Collectors were shocked. Stories spread quickly, how a penny, just like the ones clinking around in coffee cans and dresser drawers across America, could secretly be worth more than a house. And that sparked a frenzy. Suddenly, everyone was rushing to check their change, searching for the 1979 no-mint mark Lincoln penny that might be hiding in plain sight. But here's the twist that makes this coin truly unforgettable. Some of these 1979 pennies were struck on planchets meant for foreign coins, smaller or lighter than they should be. Others left the mint with dramatic double strikes, or faint but powerful doubling on Lincoln's features and lettering. And in the world of coins, those microscopic errors make the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth nearly $2 million. The drama didn't end there. At auction, these coins made history. Bidding wars broke out. Prices soared beyond expectations. One penny, graded in immaculate condition, crossed into the realm of legend, fetching a value so high that even veteran collectors couldn't believe their eyes. It was one of the first times a modern memorial penny shattered the million-dollar barrier, and yet, the most haunting part of the story remains. For every rare 1979 no-mint mark penny discovered, countless others are still out there. In piggy banks. In old coffee tins. In dusty coin rolls tucked away in attics and basements. Coins that could change someone's life with a single discovery, but this is where most people make their mistake. They don't know what to look for. They spend these coins without a second glance, never realizing they just let $1 million slip through their fingers. First, check the mint mark, or rather, the absence of one. Philadelphia pennies from 1979 carry no mint mark, and while most are common, certain varieties with errors command astronomical values. Look for doubling on the date, the word liberty, and the phrase "In God We Trust." Look closely at Lincoln's eye, his jawline, and even the columns of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Subtle doubling here can mean the difference between a penny worth a cent and one worth $1 million. Second, weigh the coin. Most 1979 pennies should weigh about 3.11 grams if struck in copper. But rare mistakes include coins struck on the wrong planchets, some lighter, some heavier, some completely out of tolerance. Any difference in weight could signal a jackpot find. Third, study the condition. A coin in worn shape may be interesting, but the real million-dollar miracles are those preserved in near-perfect condition, where every detail still shines as if freshly struck. Professional grading can reveal whether you're holding a common penny, or a life-changing fortune, but the final piece of this mystery is the emotional one. Because every 1979 penny in your pocket carries possibility. Every one of them holds a story, waiting to be revealed under the right light, in the right hands. And that's why collectors never stop searching. That's why even today, people are rushing to check their jars, their drawers, their forgotten coin stashes, hoping that they, too, will uncover the next $1 million penny. Imagine the moment you find one. You pick it up, expecting nothing, just another coin. But then you notice something odd, a missing detail, a strange shine, a weight that feels just a little different. And suddenly, your heart races. You realize this tiny piece of copper could rewrite your future. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And yours could too. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't ignore the pennies. Look closer. Because hidden in plain sight, a 1979 no-mint mark Lincoln penny could be waiting for you. And if it's the right one, you're not just holding a cent, you're holding up to $1.8 million. This coin almost slipped through history unnoticed, a tiny copper piece, no different from the change rattling in your pocket. Yet one collector discovered that their ordinary-looking penny was hiding a secret so powerful it turned a single cent into a fortune worth nearly $2 million, the 1984 Lincoln penny. A coin most people spent without a second thought, but a handful of these carry a mysterious flaw that transformed them into treasures beyond imagination. You're at the grocery store, you hand over some coins, and one of them happens to be the rarest of its kind. The cashier slides it into the till, never knowing it could have changed their life. That is the haunting truth of this story, because the most valuable coins don't look valuable at first glance, but what makes the 1984 D penny so extraordinary? Why did one of these coins shock the entire numismatic world when it crossed the auction block? It begins at the Denver Mint, in 1984. Millions of Lincoln cents were pressed that year, struck in their copper-plated zinc form. Nothing unusual, until a handful of dies misaligned ever so slightly. That tiny mechanical error created coins with details that should never have existed. Collectors who spotted them noticed something chilling. Lincoln's portrait, normally flawless, had a doubled image. His ear looked like it had been stamped twice. A double die obverse, one of the rarest and most coveted minting errors in all of U.S. coinage, but here's the twist. At first, hardly anyone cared. These coins quietly circulated. People bought gum, soda, candy bars with them, completely unaware they were handing away what could one day be worth over $1 million, and then, decades later, one surfaced. A coin that looked like any other penny, until the magnifying glass revealed the truth. A collector brought it to auction. The room fell silent. Bids climbed higher and higher, until the final hammer shocked even the experts. Nearly $2 million for a coin most people would have tossed in a jar, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. News spread like wildfire. Dealers scrambled to examine their stockpiles. Collectors emptied old coffee cans and dresser drawers. People rushed to banks and coin shops with handfuls of pennies, hoping to spot that doubled ear, the mark of a fortune hiding in plain sight, and yet, most of the world still has no idea this coin exists. Right now, as you listen, one of these pennies could be sitting in a cash register. It could be lying under the seat of a car, or wedged between couch cushions, overlooked by everyone who doesn't know what to look for. That's why this story is so powerful. Because it's not about millionaires chasing rare art or investors buying gold bars. It's about ordinary people, like you, discovering life-changing treasure in the most unexpected place, their pocket change. Imagine the rush of finding one yourself. A single cent, struck in 1984 at the Denver Mint, suddenly worth $1 million or more. Imagine holding it in your palm, your heart pounding as you realize what you've just uncovered. That's not just collecting. That's destiny. Here's the secret. The 1984 D penny looks normal, until you study Lincoln's ear. On the rare double die obverse variety, there appears to be an extra, ghost-like ear just beneath the normal one. Some call it the doubled ear penny. That tiny flaw, barely visible without close inspection, is the key. Collectors were shocked when they realized how subtle it was. Dealers couldn't believe people had spent them for decades. But that is exactly what makes this treasure so dangerous to overlook. Most people never bother to look closely, but you're different. You now know the secret. You know what to search for. And if you find one, it could transform your life in a single moment. Think about it: one penny, one mistake at the mint, one discovery in the right hands. That's the thin line between ordinary and extraordinary, between pocket change and $1 million. So the next time you find yourself sifting through coins, take a breath. Look closely. Study the details. Because hidden among the countless ordinary pennies, is a rare 1984 D Lincoln cent that has already changed lives. And here's the most haunting truth of all: this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost slipped through history unnoticed. A plain, ordinary-looking Lincoln penny from 1973, with no mint mark, the kind of penny you might toss in a tip jar, drop in a couch cushion, or leave forgotten in a dusty drawer. But one of these tiny copper coins shocked the coin world when it surfaced, because it wasn't worth 1 cent, it was worth nearly $1 million. Think about that for a moment. A penny. Just a single penny that could change someone's life forever. How is it possible? How could a coin so small, so common, suddenly become one of the most valuable treasures in American numismatic history? The story begins in 1973, a year when America was in the middle of transition. Gas prices were climbing, the Vietnam War was winding down, and millions of pennies were being struck at the U.S. Mint. Most of them were perfectly ordinary, but not all. because somewhere in those minting presses, a mistake, or perhaps a miracle, happened. Collectors believe certain 1973 Lincoln pennies without mint marks were struck under unusual conditions. Some show subtle die variations, striking errors, or unusual copper compositions, and those rare survivors are what make this year unforgettable. But here's the twist: these pennies don't advertise their value, they hide in plain sight. Most people who ever held one never knew what they had, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One man found a 1973 penny in his pocket change. Nothing special. No mint mark. Just another Lincoln cent, but when experts examined it closely, jaws dropped. The coin was struck so sharply, so cleanly, with unique qualities that made it stand out from millions of others. The grading services confirmed it, and when it hit the auction block, it soared. Bidders fought fiercely, pushing the price into the stratosphere. When the hammer fell, that 1-cent coin was worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Some estimates today say the finest known examples could break the $1 million mark. Finding a penny in your loose change that pays off your house, clears every debt, and sets up your future. That's the dream every collector lives for, and in 1973, that dream became reality for a lucky few. But here's the part that will make your heart race: most people don't even realize they might still have one of these coins, and they keep spending them, dropping them in vending machines, tossing them into penny jars, letting them disappear into circulation forever. Collectors were shocked when stories began surfacing of people cashing in jars of pennies, completely unaware they had life-changing money sitting right under their noses. Dealers scrambled to find more. Treasure hunters started combing through rolls, hunting for that one copper coin that could change everything. Normally, coins struck at Denver bear a small d. Coins struck at San Francisco carry an S. But the Philadelphia Mint, where many 1973 pennies were struck, used no mint mark at all. For most years, that's ordinary, but in 1973, subtle differences in die variety and strike quality made some Philadelphia coins extraordinary. This tiny detail, no mint mark, became the gateway to a fortune, and most people miss it until it's too late. Let me tell you another story. A collector in the Midwest picked up a handful of change from the gas station that he didn't look closely until weeks later, and there it was, a 1973 penny with no mint mark. He sent it off for grading, hoping for the best. When it came back, the result stunned him. MS67 red point, one of the highest grades possible. That one coin, worth a single cent on paper, was suddenly valued at over $30,000. And experts whispered, if it had graded just 1 point higher, it might have shattered records, climbing toward $1 million payday. Every collector knows the thrill of discovery, but very few ever hold a coin like this, because finding it requires patience, persistence, and an eagle eye for details most people overlook. Some of these $1 million pennies may still be sitting in circulation right now. That means they're hiding in bank rolls. They're lying forgotten in coffee cans. They're waiting in your old childhood coin jar that hasn't been opened in decades. Right now, one could be sitting just a few feet from you. 1973. Next, look at the mint mark area. If there's no D and no S, you may have a Philadelphia issue. Now here's where it gets tricky. Not every no mint mark 1973 penny is rare. Most are only worth face value, but the key is condition. If your coin has full original luster, sharp strikes, and no major scratches, it could be worth hundreds, even thousands. And if it grades in the highest mint state categories, MS67, MS68, you are holding something that could touch the $1 million mark. Get it authenticated, send it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC, because without that certification, no one will believe the true value. Collectors are still buzzing about these coins. Every new discovery reignites the hunt, every record-breaking auction proves the dream is real, and every time someone searches through pocket change, the question echoes in their mind, could this be the one? The truth is, the 1973 no mint mark Lincoln penny is more than just a coin. It's a reminder that history hides in the smallest places, that fortune can be disguised as something ordinary, that miracles can be waiting in the palm of your hand. So the next time you see a penny, don't just toss it aside, look closer, examine the date, check the mint mark, because the coin you ignore could be the coin that changes your life forever. This penny almost disappeared into obscurity, tossed into a piggy bank, slipped into a vending machine, forgotten in someone's change jar. But one ordinary 1977 penny, without a mint mark, shocked the coin world when it sold for nearly $1.1 million. Yes, a single cent, just one small, copper coin, transformed into a life-changing fortune. And the reason? A hidden story buried in its metal. Most people never look closely at their pennies. They see Abraham Lincoln's familiar face, the memorial on the back, and move on. But collectors know, some coins hide secrets that can turn an everyday penny into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And in 1977, something mysterious happened at the U.S. Mint. Millions of pennies poured out that year. But a few slipped through with unusual features. And those rare survivors are the ones that today command jaw-dropping prices. But here's the part that stunned experts. Collectors realized that some 1977 Lincoln pennies without a mint mark had subtle flaws, faint doubling in the design, unusual strikes, or tiny imperfections that make them unlike the rest. Dealers scrambled. Auctions buzzed. And when the hammer fell on one pristine specimen, it reached into the stratosphere, more than $1 million. 1 cent, worth more than a house. It all comes down to mistakes, mysteries, and condition. The Philadelphia Mint struck millions of pennies without a mint mark in 1977. Most are worth face value. But once in a while, one emerges in flawless condition, untouched, gleaming as though it just left the press. Combine that with a small striking error or unusual die variety, and you have the recipe for a coin worth a fortune. Collectors were stunned when the first major 1977 no mint mark penny crossed the auction block. The bids climbed higher and higher until jaws dropped. This was no ordinary coin. This was history in metal, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Whispers spread of other 1977 pennies turning up in pocket change. People who thought they had nothing but a jar of cents suddenly realized they could be holding a treasure. Dealers rushed to examine every roll. Collectors raced to auctions, desperate to secure one of these elusive gems, and that's the thrilling part, because you, sitting at home, with a jar of old coins on your dresser, could be holding the exact same kind of penny. The kind that turns a collector into a millionaire overnight. Imagine it. You open a roll of pennies from the bank. You dump them out. And there it is, a 1977 penny without a mint mark. At first, it looks ordinary. But then, something catches your eye. The shine. The sharpness. The way Lincoln's details seem almost perfect. Your hands start to shake. Could this be the one? But here's the catch, most people miss the tiny details. They don't know what to look for. They spend the coin, or let it gather dust. And that's why these million-dollar pennies are still out there, waiting to be found. One man in the Midwest once told his story. He had saved a handful of pennies in a small tin box as a child. Decades later, while cleaning out his attic, he opened the box. Among the brown, worn cents was one shining copper penny, a 1977 no mint mark. He almost gave it away to his grandson. Instead, he had it checked. And when the appraisal came back, his knees nearly buckled. That single penny was valued near $1 million. Collectors everywhere were shaken. Stories like this spread like wildfire. It wasn't just luck, it was knowledge. The knowledge of what to look for, and the courage to believe that even the smallest coin could hold the biggest surprise. But here's where things get even more mysterious. Not all valuable 1977 no mint mark pennies are flawless. Some are worth tens of thousands because of errors. Off-center strikes. Double dies. Weak strikes where the design didn't fully press into the metal. Each flaw tells a story. Each flaw makes the coin rarer. And rarity is what drives value sky high. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins, because the demand keeps climbing. Every time one of these rare pennies surfaces, collectors line up to bid, pushing prices further and further beyond imagination. And the truth is, the next record-breaking coin could be discovered by someone just like you. This was the last full decade before the great change of 1982, when the U.S. Mint switched pennies from solid copper to a copper-coated zinc. The 1977 cent is one of the last of its kind, heavy, bright, and full of history. That fact alone has collectors clinging to them. Combine that with errors, pristine condition, or special characteristics, and you've got the perfect storm of rarity and demand. But here's what most people don't realize: even ordinary-looking 1977 pennies could hold value if they grade high. A coin in mint state condition, with no scratches, no wear, no dullness, can fetch hundreds, sometimes thousands. The best of the best, those near-perfect coins, can soar into six figures and beyond. And once in a great while, one crosses the $1 million threshold. Think about that. A penny worth more than a luxury car. A penny worth more than most people's lifetime savings. A penny, worth more than gold, and yet, every day, people spend them without a second thought. But not you. You're listening because you know there's more. You know treasures hide in plain sight. And the 1977 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is proof. So here's what you need to do: when you find a 1977 penny without a mint mark, stop. Don't spend it. Don't toss it aside. Hold it to the light. Look at Lincoln's face, his beard, the lettering. Search for doubling, especially in the date and lettering. Check the coin's condition, the luster, the shine, the sharpness of detail. If it looks pristine, if it looks unusual, you may be holding a life-changing piece of history, and don't make the mistake of cleaning it. A cleaned coin loses value instantly. Leave it as it is. Handle it gently by the edges. If you suspect you have something special, get it graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC. That's how $1 million pennies are confirmed. 1 cent. One coin. One chance at $1 million miracle. Collectors dream of this moment. And for someone out there, that dream is about to come true.